Hello. Welcome back. There are a lot of ground types that I actually think are pretty cool. And I don't know what it is that I'm going to be talking about until I look at what's available to me. But this is definitely going to be an interesting list because most of my favorite Pokemon are all ground type. So let's see how this one goes. Welcome back to Wigs Gaming. We have obviously been talking about the ugliest Pokemon of every single generation for quite some time now. And today's no different. So let's just jump right into it. If you're excited, make sure you hit the like button at the bottom of the video. And please subscribe if you're new. We've got a subscriber goal that we do not want to miss out on. Now, look. What is our first option? Well, this is where things get a little tricky. Because at the end of the day, as I mentioned, a lot of my favorite Pokemon are ground type. And looking at this list in front of me, I'm actually not disappointed in any of them. I think they're all genuinely pretty cool Pokemon. Except for one. But that one is actually Nidoqueen. I think Nidoking is really cool. I just think they missed the mark here, and Nidoqueen just doesn't really look as cool as Nidoking does. Like, Nidoking is a really cool looking Pokemon. Everybody wanted a Nidoking. Nobody wanted a Nidoqueen. And based off of the other options I had available, I had to go with it. Generation 2 is one that I think we can all probably agree on. And that is Phanpy. This thing is just a little elephant. And it evolves into bigger elephant. And that's it. It's not a very powerful Pokemon, and it's just not a very... It's not a Pokemon you look at and you think, that's so cool, I need to use that. Like, you can make an argument for a lot of the stuff on this list. Wooper's happy even though he has no arms. Quagsire's pretty cool. Gligar was a bad Pokemon, but it was well designed. Steelix, obviously. Swinub and Piloswine, because they're ice-type, people will go to. But you encounter Phanpy early in the game, and you don't think to yourself, oh my goodness, I have to use that. You don't, because there's nothing appealing about this thing at all, especially in Gen 2. Now, Generation 3, I honestly have to go with Claydol. Claydol is basically a penguin. It's psychic and ground, but just kind of like what I talked about with Phanpy, I don't look at Baltoy and Claydol and think, oh, I need to use those. I do. And I genuinely like a lot of the ground types. Like, this thing even becomes Ninjask available. Marshtomp is awesome. We got Flygon, we got Barboach and Whiscash, and Numel and Camerupt, and obviously Groudon. Like, there's a lot of really good options here. There is. And at the end of the day, this thing is a ground penguin. I think they were going for like a penguin look. It's got some sort of orifice around its head with like a bunch of eyes. And it's honestly just nightmare fuel. That's really what it is. It's just straight nightmare fuel. Generation 4. Generation 4. One of my least favorite designs in the entire game. Gastrodon is just Shellos, but bigger. I think Gastrodon is a good Pokemon. I like that it has two different forms. But where were they going with this? It's a ground slug. That's exactly what Shellos was, right? And then you just evolve into bigger ground slug. Little bit disappointing. Its typing is really the only reason why people actually want this thing. Otherwise, people don't get it because they think it looks cool. No one does. I would be thoroughly shocked if anyone actually said, oh my goodness, it's a Gastrodon. Oh, that looks so cool. I have to catch that. They didn't. They didn't. Oh boy, this is a stinker. This is a stinker right here, dude. I've got a choice between Seismitoad and Stunfisk, dude. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? It's Stunfisk, but it has to be Seismitoad, dude. Like, Seismitoad, and I guess I already talked about Seismitoad when I talked about water types, so how about we just let Stunfisk be, okay? Let's let Stunfisk be. No, we're not going to let him be. This thing should not exist, and I'm never going to stop talking about how horrendous this thing is. The fact that they thought it would be a good idea to put a fish Pokemon that was electric and ground in the game, make it look like it just got stomped on, and then say, okay, people are going to like this, people are going to use this, people are going to think this is so cool, they can't wait to catch this. No! That's not going to happen. It's just not. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. It'll never happen. Just live with it. Moving on. Generation 6. I was honestly extremely disappointed by a couple of these mega designs. First and foremost, actually none of them are on this list. So I will actually move on from some of these mega designs because they all look really good. Not to mention Primal Groudon is awesome. And I kind of already talked about Diggers being my normal type video. This is my official choice, but I want to talk about Zygarde because when every single main series Pokemon game, except for recently, has a third legendary. Actually, no, I think every single one of them has had it. Maybe the Scarlet Violet was the exception. But that third legendary is supposed to be stronger than the main two box art legendaries, right? And the whole purpose of why it exists is because a lot of the lore comes through it and so on, and you're supposed to be able to catch it in the post game as you are with every other game, right? Zygarde, you were able to do that, not a problem, right? But he was just hidden in a cave somewhere. There was no, like, overarching story about him. And what everybody theorized at the time is they were like, well, you know, they made Pokemon X and Y, and Zygarde's name starts with a Z, so they're going to make Pokemon Z. Well, even though X and Y actually were a good resurgence for the Pokemon series after Black 2 and White 2 wasn't all that popular, they still decided, no, we're going to scrap Pokemon Z and we're going to jump right into Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon did well, it was a good game, and they ended up adding full form Zygarde then. But again, there was no story to it. There was nothing more than that. So I just wanted to talk about and rant about that a little bit, where there was a lot of missed potential, and how if they made a Pokemon Z version, people would absolutely love it, and I would still be replaying it to this day. And Zygarde's full form does look really cool, but its half form where it's just like a snake, not so much. But look at its full form. Its full form looks really, really cool, man. It looks so cool. But Generation 7, by far and beyond the worst of the worst, is Alolan Dugtrio. When this thing first came out, so for anyone who doesn't know, I've used the username Wigs for like, I want to say almost 10 years at this point. It's been that long. I've used it that long. And when this thing came out, I said, okay, this is just Dugtrio with a bunch of wigs. And I'm like, this is for me. I'll have to love this thing. Well, in Generation 9, they introduced this Pokemon called Wiglet. And while Wiglet is not a very good Pokemon, I actually like Wiglet more because it actually has wig in it. So I'll live with that. And Alolan Dugtrio really is just Dugtrio with you know, hair. Based off the options I had here, where I had Zygarde, I had Sandcastle Ghost, and I had Mudspray and Mudsdale. This is really the worst one. It is. And it is just going to be what it's going to be. And they made it a steel type for some reason. They added hair, but they made it a steel type. They made it work, though. They said the hair fibers were made out of steel or something, but still. Just saying. Generation 8. I am extremely disappointed in one of these Pokemon. And that Pokemon is Ursaluna. You gave Ursaring an evolution. And this is what you came up with. A big bear who's already pretty strong. And this is what you thought of. This is what you said. You looked at and you said, this looks so awesome, man. I am so down for this Ursaring evolution. I can't wait for people to use this. And guess what happened? Everybody forgot that it existed already. Generation 9. I've already talked about Clodsire enough. I think I'm going to leave Clodsire alone. Honestly, I have to say, out of all of these, it's still Sandy Shocks. I talked about Sandy Shocks in my electric type video. I just don't know what they were thinking. No one asked for a Paradox Pokemon, and at the end of the day, it was a decently cool feature, but I can't see it being something they continue with after in other generations. If anything, if they do make Paradox Pokemon a thing again, they will probably give them actual names, because the code names they use for them, no one remembers. Like, this is Great Tusk, and then this is iron something, and I already forgot. You know what I mean? Especially all the iron ones. Over time, I'll remember them, but it's difficult with some of them. But I wish they could have given them, like, actual names, and also maybe instead of making Paradox Pokemon, they could have just given alternate forms or alternate evolutionary lines. So maybe Magnemite and Magneton can evolve into Sandy Shocks if you do a certain thing, and then evolves into Magnezone if you do a different certain thing. They could have done the same thing with Phanpy into Donphan for both of these. I think that would have been perceived a little bit better and would have been a little bit more of a fun way to do it, where you kind of figure it out on your own without even noticing. And you can still have Area Zero full of this stuff, but it would have been cool if there was some evolutionary line or something where you can get more and you can breed these to get more of them and so on and so forth. But instead they went with this. Out of all of the Paradox Pokemon designs, I think Roaring Moon is definitely the best. Can we find him over here? I gotta find Roaring Moon over here. Look at Roaring Moon. He looks so cool. He does. But they missed the mark on a couple. Sandy Shocks is one of them. So what's the worst? Well, we have some options here. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. Subscribe if you're new. I would love to see that subscriber number continue to go up. 500 is still the goal. Let's see if we can get there. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I've gone on far too long, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.